Okay, so in the last video we noticed that we did get the shooting to work, but the bullets are flying way too fast. What we want is, if we hold down the space bar, we only want them to shoot once in a while, the bullets. To shoot maybe, and we thought maybe of keeping track of how many times we go through act and then shooting based on that. So I'm going to start out by making a variable, and this time it's not going to be a class variable, it's going to be an instance variable. And again, this is kind of doesn't make a big deal in this particular scenario because we only have one shooter, but just logically, I'm thinking if I was ever in a case where I had lots of shooters, I would want to make sure that each shooter is independently keeping track of the last time he hit the space bar was hit, and I don't know. It's kind of a thing that you kind of get a feel for, and again, like I said, in this case, it's not a big deal either way. But just to show you an example of an instance variable, so I'm going to say private int. Let's say I'm going to call it acts between shots. So this will keep track of how many times I'm going to step through an act method before I shoot the bullet again. And I think actually, just to make this, to shorten this bit a little more, I'm going to take this constructor, because now see, this constructor returns a bullet object, right? And that's the object I'm going to add. So I can just, since I don't need to keep track of the, oh wait, yeah, no, I don't need to keep track of the bullet, I don't think. So I'm gonna cut it. I can always change this later on if I decide to. And paste that in there. So now I'm just saying add object new shooter bullet. That'll just return a new bullet shooter bullet object and put it at the X and the Y. Because what I want to do is I want to add in a test inside here to say if the key down is space, I want to check and see if acts between shots is greater than, I don't know, 20 or something. You can play around with this and see what makes sense to you. So if it's bigger than 20, then yeah, I'll go ahead and stick in the bullet. Oh wait, then I'll go ahead and stick in the bullet, and I'll set X between shots back to 0, let's say. But then every time through, I'll add 1 to X between shots. So if I say plus plus, that adds 1 to it. Okay. So actually, maybe the 0 kind of is okay, but the 20, I could also stick in a variable here, private static final int max acts between shots equals 20, let's say. Okay. So now this should only fire when my acts between shots is bigger than the maximum, and then I'll reset it down to 0. So if it's 0, it's not going to fire, right? But I'll keep adding every time I do an act, and then it'll eventually get big enough to change, right? So let's see. I'm trying to think if there was something else I wanted to test for here. Well, for now, I think this is. Oh yeah. What do I start acts between shots at? What should be the initial value of it? Well, it should start out, I mean, the first time you hit the key, you want it to fire immediately, right? It's just if you're holding it down that you don't want it to. So actually, what I should do in my, since I'm initializing things here, I'll set this to a really big number because I might want to change what the maximum is. So I'm going to set it to integer.max value. That's the biggest value that an integer can possibly be. Does that compile? Yeah. Okay. So an integer again is part of that java.lang package, so we don't have to do an import for integer. But this is so max value is a class variable. It's a static final int in the integer class that says the biggest possible integer. So if it starts out at the biggest possible integer, then it's going to immediately fire, right? Now the other thing is, what if I press a key that is not the space bar? Should that affect it? No, I don't think so. I think I should. I only need to see if, well, when I pick up the space bar, when I pick up the space bar, then I want to like kind of start the counting all over again, right? So well, let's see what we have so far, and then we'll think about if we need to make improvements. So let's go here. So let's run. I can go back and forth. If I hold down the space bar, now it's a little more reasonable, right? And I can always slow it down by adding more. Let's see if it looks like the actual game here a little more. So, yeah. Oh, it looks like it goes faster if it's under this guy. That's interesting. But here, boom, 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 boom. Okay, so let's see if that's what ours seems like. Maybe ours is a little bit fast. But see, that's cool because now that tells us we might want this to be a local variable that we can change, because we might want to change it if we're underneath the barrier. But we can do that later. Let's just see. Maybe we make this 50 instead of 20 for now. Yeah, or maybe 40 would be better. So you can play around with what numbers you'd like on that. And then I just want to make sure there is a little bit of a lag, it feels like, if I hit a key and then hit it again, but I think I can tolerate it for now. I might need to do some tweaking of the code to make it respond a little bit better. I'll have to see how the play goes, but for now I think we have a reasonable bullet. The next thing we have to do is figure out what do we do, because look, I have a bazillion bullet sticking up here at the top of the screen. What do we do when we hit the top of the screen? Because sometimes the bullet is going to miss the Space Invaders coming down. You're going to get to the top, so we have to decide what to do then, and then start adding. We'll be ready to start adding some invaders.